Once again, the best part of the HIFF is the student short program. And right here with this austere group, young professionals, and at the helm down there is Jeremiah Newton. Jeremiah, welcome. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass the mic around so that each of them can introduce themselves, the school, and the title of their feature, their short, I should say.
I'm Avram Dodson. I'm from Columbia University, and my short is Pistachio Milk.
I'm Brandon Zuck. I'm also from Columbia University, and my short is Stay.
I'm Jeannie, Donohoe, also from Columbia University, and I wrote and directed Lambing Season.
I'm Lisa Perez. I'm a judge for the Student Awards.
And I'm Joe Messeri. I'm a judge also for the Student Awards.
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Bowers. I'm an assistant programmer and shorts programmer for the HIFF.
It is an Oscar-worthy group. You have 5 filmmakers from all over the country, and they've made some very interesting, thought-provoking short films. I started doing the program 21 years ago, and we've had hundreds of student filmmakers come through the program in 21 years. And a lot of these people are in Hollywood or Europe making feature films. So it's always a pleasure to be out here in East Hampton. The festival is very gracious to the students. We provide them a room. It just works out really well for them, and they get a chance to meet industry professionals.
I'm just pleased to be here with Jeremiah and have these filmmakers in attendance. I'm looking forward to seeing the shorts and how they play.
They play very well. Thank you.
Well, you know, we started this in 1992. We had our first entries, and there are many of them I haven't forgotten. I remember so many. They're usually the best thing in the festival. They're very exciting. And I'm really, well, not exactly surprised, but I'm delighted that 21 years later we're still around.
Student Award Showcase. We have 5 wonderful films. And before we begin real quick, I'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsors, without whose support this festival wouldn't be possible. We have our presenting sponsors are American Airlines and Altour. Our premier sponsor is Capital One, and we have additional foundation support from the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. And this Student Award Showcase is actually sponsored by Bloomingdale's as well, and we thank them. I'd like to quickly introduce some of our industry judges for the Student Showcase, and here we are.
Should I give it to Naomi first? First, I'd like to introduce Naomi Lazard, who is actually way back when one of the founding members of the festivals and one of the driving people that fought for the Student Film Awards.
Actually, it was one of the earliest ideas we had. Can you hear me? Yes. We started this whole festival in a basement, and we had nothing, no money. We did it. Whenever anyone gets discouraged making a film, remember the basement and the volunteers. And Jeremiah came in very soon after we started, and we planned this program. And he's been a devoted leader of it ever since. And it's wonderful. I'm so happy it's still going, and happy to welcome you here.
My name is Joe Messeri, and I'm pleased to be one of the judges again this year for the Student Short Film Award presentation. You know, the short filmmaker should be congratulated because I'm a fan of short fiction. And I think anybody, once they graduate from the short medium into the long narrative, anybody, especially as you can see in Hollywood today, can chew up a lot of time and tell less of a story than these filmmakers do in a shorter amount of time with cinematography, with acting, with effects. You come away with a richer feel more satisfied when you watch these shorts than I can think of anything that I've seen from Hollywood so far this year. So these filmmakers should be congratulated because they're not just filmmakers, they're exceptional storytellers. And we have 5 films you're going to see, and I will present the mic to one of the other judges, Miss Lisa Perez, and she will read you the titles you're about to see.
And there's a Q&A.
And there will be a Q&A afterwards with some of the filmmakers, so please stay because I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions for them based on what you see on the screen.
The 5 films that we will be presenting to everyone today are Pistachio Milk, director Avram Dodson, Stay, director Brandon Zuck, Lambing Season, director Jeannie, Donohoe, Reza Hassani Goes to the Mall, director Sara, Zandieh, and The White Seagull, director Max Strebel. Great, wonderful films. I hope you guys enjoy them.
I only have an hour for my car on the street, so I may not be here at the end. I want to say one thing. Following what Joe said about how these short films do a better job very often than narrative films and feature films. And one of the key elements, as I understand it, is really something out of poetry. And in poetry, it's called enjambment. It's where one line ends and the next line begins. In film, it's, what is it called? When you quickly dissolve one image and go to another. I forgot the name for it.
Crossfade.
Fade in.
No, it's not a fade in, it's a quick.
Transition.
Larry,
Probably
we don't have much
Yes,
time
yeah.
because we have to start.
I'm sorry, I've just been given my pink slip. But you know what I'm talking about. The way it changes from one image to another. It doesn't need time for that. It just needs a flash. It's just what I want to say.
Well, thanks everyone. Please stick around for a Q&A following the screening.
What's it called?
And,
Brief Q&A.
and remember to turn off your cell phones and enjoy the show. Thanks.
My film was Pistachio Milk.
I'm Brandon Zuck. My film was Stay.
I'm Sara Zandieh. My film was Reza Hassani Goes to the Mall.
I'm Jeannie Donohoe. I wrote and directed Lambing Season.
I'm Juliet Lashinsky-Ravine, and I produced Lambing Season.
Big round of applause for all of them. So I think each film is unique in its cinematography, in its look, and some of the themes. And I think the best place to start would be why this particular story for you, and in relation to having found the story, what were some of the choices that you made moving forward in terms of your production, design, cinematography, art direction to capture the essence of that story you were looking to tell?
Well, this story was based on a couple things for me. The first time I ever tried to ask out a girl, and just the experience of being in Dhaka in Bangladesh and the people and the things I met and saw there. First time I ever tried to ask out a girl, it was in middle school, and I was in the gym, and there was a girl I liked on the other side of the gym, and I was like, oh man, I'm just gonna go over there, I'm gonna do it, and it was the longest walk I ever had to take. And I got shut down pretty hard, but it was so I wanted it to work out a little bit better for this guy. And then when I was in Dhaka, well, Bangladesh is a Muslim country, and so dating there is a little bit funny. Everybody kind of does it, but it's kind of something you do a little bit on the down low. And in the center of the old part of town, there's this giant garden that you saw called Lalbagh Fort. And if you go in there, you'll see all the young people on these sort of little forbidden dates. And I visited that place and saw some of these, and I thought it was a really interesting juxtaposition of the innocent and the forbidden. Because they're, people just go there and hold hands, basically, but it's no, no, no. So I wanted to shoot something there and have a little bit of that. And I guess in order to bring about that, like, how am I going to get those things up on the screen? I wanted to feel a little bit like an old fairy tale. So, you know, there's a little bit of a Romeo and Juliet thing when he first goes to see her. She's up on the balcony and he's down below. There's this castle. It's guarded by that the guard at the gate, and then they get in there and there's this beautiful garden. But the problem is they run into the prince, the guy with the camera, who kind of steals up his gal, and what's he going to do about that? So in the back of my mind, that was always there, sort of a fairy tale, princes and thieves and princesses.
What's almond milk?
Oh, pistachio milk?
Pistachio.
Yeah, it's just it's a beverage there. It's like a sweet milk, and there's this place, Royal Hotel. It's not a hotel. That's what they call restaurants, hotels there sometimes. And you can actually get it right around the corner from Fort, and it's really delicious. So, seems like a good thing to have. Thanks, guys.
I always want to be careful when I kind of imply that any part of it is autobiographical, because I didn't kill anybody. But I guess it's sort of like a personal story set in like a heightened situation. And when I was approaching it, I always kind of like, location's always really important for me, and I picked this kind of section of the Florida Keys because, you know, it's like, usually it's so tropical, but there are these these dirty little corners, and you get very isolated the further down you go. We actually rented this like little tiny island that was basically just like a mud heap with like weeds and a houseboat on it. So yeah, that was kind of why we chose that angle.
My film kind of speaks to my own family's experience of immigration. I just wanted to make a film that kind of like humanized but satirized the immigrant experience. We had a lot of like confusing experiences, especially the first few years when we were in America. And so it was just a story that spoke to those years. In terms of style, it was really economical choices. I didn't use a lot of lights. I shot in a mall that was an open ceiling mall, so we could use natural light. I had to shoot it in 3 days because my actor, he's a stand-up comedian, and he only had 3 days. So a lot of those choices were economical, but I think it suited the story because it's really a social realist film. So I wanted it to look and feel like real life.
That little boy was adorable.
Yeah, that was his first film. And he was only 4, even though he looks like he's older. He's the big kid.
There were multiple routes to the inspiration of my story. Basically, I wanted to tell a story about a daughter and a father who were sort of magnetized toward each other, but afraid of actually being who they were, and kind of employed similar methods of hiding from each other. And it was inspired in part in the lamb situation by a trip I made to Ireland, where I stayed on a sheep farm and saw the very difficult birth of a lamb, and we were all very afraid that either the sheep might die or the lamb might die, and you know, everyone was very worried overnight, and then finally in the morning the lamb was born and everything was okay, and it was just this huge sigh of relief for everyone, and it seemed to just be like a reset where, you know, something in nature had occurred that was so substantial that everything else afterward seemed like it was different. And so the choices that influenced, I think, the look of it and the cinematography were just the way it feels in Ireland, being very blustery, and you know, it could rain any minute, and it's so green and lovely, and I wanted to try to capture as much of that as possible, the stone walls, the large expanses, the like raw seafront, and of course the sheep.
I know we have a limited amount of time. If there's any questions, we'd like to throw it out to the audience. If anybody has a question for the filmmakers? Hold on, I'll bring you the mic.
Thank you.
I was just thinking about lambing season. Can you talk about the production and direction challenges in filming the actual birth of the lamb, and also maybe if that actor had any experience with assisting in the live birth of lambs.
Sure. I'll start with the second part of that, which is that miraculously that actor, who I was interested in anyway, was from that region and had grown up on a sheep farm and had birthed a horse, I believe, if not also a lamb when he was a kid. So that influenced my casting process. He was very authentic to the area, so I was really pleased that that would happen. But in fact, in the actual footage that you see, he's performing that element in the shots that have him from here up. But the real sheep farmer with whom we stayed and who taught us about all of this stuff is the one in the footage actually doing the delivery, which had been shot a few weeks earlier than the main production, just in case we weren't miraculously able to stage that scene during a live birth, which actually we were able to get a couple of births in, but we did one in advance just in case, and then matched his wardrobe to what the sheep farmer wore on the day of production.
Any other questions?
I have a question. What does a good What does a good producer do for a first-time filmmaker?
Well, in this case, I held down the sheep while the lamb was being born. That was actually very exciting. I think I went to Columbia also, and I'm a directing concentrate, and Jeannie and I, she produced a film that I directed, and I produced a film that she directed, and I think for a first-time director, it's very important to be emotionally available because it's an extremely scary thing to make a film. And so I think being able to be to stay calm and to be able to take care of things and have things, be able to experience all the excitement and scary things that happen when you're producing a film, and sort of maintain this calm presence for a director so that she feels like she's in good hands and that things are going fine even when they're not. But in the end they do come together, and Jeannie is very organized and very on top of things, so it was very easy to produce this film in that regard. And so yeah, I think being supportive and making the set run as smoothly as possible is really important.
I have a question for the person of Stay. Wonderful film, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
How did you get the idea of doing it?
I mean, honestly, it's sort of it started with kind of this personal story, and it's not too personal, but yeah, it really started there, and then I like doing I like to put these kind of personal ideas in more of a heightened situation, so I kind of took it to an extreme, and actually the location ended up feeding into the story a lot because as I was writing, I really wanted to pick a place and really get into it, so that sort of actually fed back into it. I spent some time down in Florida and really looked around for some cool things, and I got this idea that they have that amazing bridge that's 7 miles long, and I really wanted to make it. Then I got this idea I wanted to make it this road movie, so it was kind of this back and forth.
I think that was all we have time for at the moment. And again, I want to thank Jeremiah Newton for his continued support, for helping to showcase young up-and-coming student filmmakers. And I'm sure keep your programs handy, keep an eye out for these names because I'm sure you're going to hear from them again in the not too distant future. And thank you. Yes, and keep that checkbook open. So you might be financing the next Steven Spielberg or Christopher Nolan or Kimberly Pierce.